Hi, welcome to Weekend Review. I'm Phil O'Connor, the Live Enterprise Director. We're going to check in on some of our headlines from the week and some of the stories we have coming up in the weekend's paper. Joined this week again by our stellar cast. We have Josh Wallace from our Enterprise Desk and Breaking News Desk, Meg Wingirter from our Dig Team, and my old friend Don Mecoy, the Business Editor. We've sent Josh out this week to visit Western Oklahoma, where things are a little smoky. Tell us what you found, some of the folks you talked to out there.
Well, I mean, it's just been devastation around there. You know, you drive up and it's about 15 or 20 miles before you actually get there, you start smelling the smoke. I mean, it's that ever-present. You get there, just hundreds of thousands of acres are scorched. You talk to the residents, and it's kind of a mixture of fear and kind of indifference, you know, at this point, because it's been going on for so long now. We're entering the second week of the Wildfire and the 34 complex fire in Woodward. And Visai, particularly in that area, has been hit really hard.
This is Dewey County,
Dewey
right?
County, and so in Visai, in that area, about 32 homes is what they're estimating have been lost. And so you've got an emergency shelter that was set up. I don't know if the shelters are still open right now, but you had residents there from communities nearby, you know, getting food, getting clothing that had been donated, those kinds of things. Talked to one man, Travis Roy, lost everything. You know, lost his house that he said his great-grandparents built, and asked him, you know, well, what are you going to do? He said, well, I live here all my life. This is family land. We're just going to rebuild. So, but while we were there, you know, during the mid-afternoon, things started popping back off. You know, you really couldn't see any smoke in the morning, but it was just strange how they would pop off randomly. You know, things would be rekindled, and one point we were sitting in ceiling, and a fire truck went by, and this poor waitress, you know, you just hear her run for the door, you know, just anxious, thinking that's another evacuation order. So. And
you described a little bit of almost like a tornado, and when you're out there, you see, you know, there are places that are, of course, totally scorched, I guess is the best way to describe it, where the scrub land and everything is blackened, and you don't, you know, there aren't a lot of trees out there to begin with, obviously, but so the land, but then you'll just over a rise or just across the road or wherever it might be, you see where it looks like nothing's happened, right?
Yeah. So just south of Tologa, I mean, it's scorched for hundreds of acres, thousands of acres, and then you would get into Tologa proper, and it's in a little valley. Looks like nothing happened right there in town. You get out by Visai, there's a cemetery out there. You can see where the fire jumped the road, scorched just a little bit of the cemetery, and then just stopped, just dead end. And it's kind of that hopscotching. It all really depends on where the wind is blowing, you know, the embers and everything like that. So hopefully this weekend they're going to get some beneficial rain that will help firefighters. You know, right now the Wildfire is up to nearly 290,000 acres, one of the largest fires in Oklahoma history. The Woodward Complex fire was, I think it's about 62,000 right now. So, and I think National Weather Service is forecasting up to an inch of rain in those areas.
And we were talking that's about the size,
so the one fire, the Wildfire, if you equate it to square miles, it's about double the size or more of the land area of Tulsa.
So these are huge fires that are really impacting our folks out west. We've had stories all week about that. Josh's story is in Sunday's paper, where we talked to some of the people who've really been in the middle of all this, and it's a great story. Pick up that paper and check that out. Meg, we also in the Sunday paper have another part of our State of Oklahoma series, and this one focuses on health. As we know, these are not great numbers that we report in these stories. The purpose of this series is to sort of identify some of the shortcomings that the state confronts, and tell us a little bit about what we're finding on the health front.
Well, just about anything you could choose to look at in terms of metrics, Oklahoma's not doing very well. We have higher mortality for most of the major causes of death, including heart disease and cancer. Our health behaviors are not good, which is a contributing factor. Smoking is down somewhat, but it's still higher than the national average, and that's a huge contributor to heart disease, cancer, stroke, and also our obesity rate keeps going up. That's part of the national trend, but we're still on the higher end when it comes to obesity. So that's working against us. And also working against us is we've got a high number of people in poverty and people who are uninsured. So unfortunately, if you're in that situation, you're often not getting preventative care that could, you know, say if you get a colonoscopy, it catches the polyps, they can take care of it before it develops into full-blown colon cancer, which is much harder to treat at that point and much more likely to kill you. So would you like me to give you one bit of good news to end on?
Please.
We're actually doing well when it comes to alcohol. We're one of the least likely states for excessive rates of drinking. So that's one good thing you can say for us, that we're doing
I
right.
wonder if that's tied to our Baptist roots. I mean, I'm serious. The Southern Baptist roots of the state. That there isn't a lot of drinking, and obviously in the Baptist faith or whatever, and that's a fairly large denomination here, isn't it, Don?
We still have dry counties too, which probably helps.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. It isn't all bad news, but there are some there are very troubling statistics,
Yes.
actually, even in terms of teen pregnancy. Some of the things, and we continue. We had an interesting discussion the other day, I thought, about the policy direction of public health, and this is something we will probably explore later in this series, which is, where we've invested our health dollars as a country, sort of, and the idea of prevention versus sort of, how did you describe it, Maggie?
Well, I mean, the public health system was set up in the late 1800s, early 1900s. The big things you were concerned about was infectious disease, because you were still getting outbreaks of cholera and all sorts of diseases, and we've been really effective. Public health has done some great things there. We have clean water, we have vaccinations. It's succeeded mostly when it comes to communicable diseases. The difficulty is those same tools don't always work so well with the things that are killing people now. Now people are dying of heart disease, cancer, things where preventing a germ from spreading or giving people a vaccine is not going to solve that. So, and the infrastructure, the federal money, and the state laws on what health departments are supposed to do are still somewhat geared toward that infectious disease model, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, if you do want them investigating if there's an outbreak of, foodborne illness, or if there's a new disease threat in the country. But so I'm not saying we need to get rid of that. It's just we haven't kept up with how are we going to address that for these non-communicable things,
Right. And
the lifestyle kinds of diseases.
And that will be the big policy shift and big policy discussion, and maybe one that we can help drive here in Oklahoma in terms of how do we invest, what do we invest our health dollars in, and is it the most effective use, and how do we get it more aimed towards those preventative types of measures. So it's a great story. It's a great series. Again, we're covering this all year long. It's sort of trying to look at why we fail in so many measures in Oklahoma, from health to incarceration to mental health. And we'll be exploring it, like I said, all year long. Look for those stories. Don, let's talk about what could be some good news for Oklahoma City from Amazon.
Yeah, we've learned that Oklahoma City is in the midst of negotiations. I guess they're pretty far along in the midst of negotiations with Amazon, which apparently has an interest in building one of its massive fulfillment centers on some property out near Will Rogers World Airport. These fulfillment centers is where they keep their stuff. When you order something from Amazon, they pick it and they box it and they ship it off from there. And of course they have to keep that place supplied. What we had learned is that they're looking at a multi-story warehouse that would probably employ more than 2,000 people. So that would be great news as far as employment, as far as activity at the airport. There's a construction project that would take place if this all happens. But there's also as we reported, our David Dishman and Steve Lackmeyer worked really hard on this story. There would need to be incentives. That's what's being negotiated. What kind of incentive are they expecting from the city of Oklahoma City? What kind of incentive would they be expecting from the state of Oklahoma? I mean, some of them are natural that you would expect. I mean, the quality jobs is one of the things that the state pays off on, and something like this is a natural thing for that. So there would be some incentives that would take place. But yeah, it would be a really big project.
So we didn't get the headquarters. I don't know that we were in the running for the headquarters or even attempting to try and get the headquarters.
I think we attempted, yes.
But just like that deal, lips are very tight about this, right?
Yes, Amazon's very tight-lipped. In fact, just to find out data about how many and where these fulfillment centers are is pretty difficult. I think basically what Amazon will tell us is we have I believe the number was, well, they said we have more than 75 fulfillment centers in North America, and that they have tens of thousands of employees, maybe it's even hundreds of thousands that work at these places. And these are blue-collar jobs. You have to keep in mind that the pay is pretty good. It's better than minimum wage. I mean, they're paying $12, $13 an hour to these people. The full-time employees do get a competitive benefits package of health care and those kinds of things. And also, where these places exist, it's a lot like UPS and FedEx in that come the holiday season, come November and December, they really ramp up the employment because, as you know, Amazon gets things to people in 1 or 2 days, if that's how they want it.
Just wait until those drones start flying out of that place.
That makes a lot of sense. When you're out someplace like at the airport, you have some freedom to do some drone work. So now, we have no indication that that's
we
part
don't
of this
even know
plan.
that this is a real thing.
Well, we know that it's being negotiated.
So they say. No, it is a real thing. I'm just teasing. It actually is happening. We'll keep working on that story as well. Again, these are the kinds of stories we bring you every day in the paper, online. Pick us up, check us out. I think you'll like it. We'll see you next week.